are live. Okay. So, welcome everyone to Queer Love on the Run with Kate Bornstein and Caitlin Sullivan. And welcome to the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder, along with my lovely partner, Donnie Jokum, of the Bureau. So the Bureau is an independent, all-volunteer queer bookstore that Donnie and I founded in 2012, and that has been here at the center since 2014. We have regular bookstore hours, Wednesdays through Sundays from 1 to 7 p.m., and we often stay open later when we have events. So please check out our calendar on our website, bgsqd.com. And you can also sign up there for our newsletter, which goes out every other Monday. So it will be going out tomorrow. As an all-volunteer independent queer bookstore, we rely on both sales and donations to keep this machinery going. And now that we are paying a little bit of rent here, we definitely need that support. So I'm going to pass a bag around. If you're able to make a donation, if you know you're going to buy a book, whatever way you're able to support us, we appreciate it. And we are very much looking for folks to sign up to become monthly donors. So we have a little donation station back there where you can sign up to make a monthly donation, tax deductible, and that will help us to have a source of income that we can rely on. So I'll pass the bag around. There's also a Venmo QR code on the back if you want to give through that. Anyone watching online, you can donate by going to our website, or if you want to just do Venmo, you can do that at BGSQD. Let's see, what else do I need to say? I said the hours, I said the newsletter. I think that's it. I'm going to give a land acknowledgement, and then I'm going to turn it over to the folks from Generous Press, and we'll get started. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. The Bureau also recognizes Palestinian liberation as a fundamental part of our collective queer liberation. And we strongly encourage you, thank you, I love it when people are with us. We strongly encourage you to take one of our free zines on why we feel it is particularly important for queer people to speak out in solidarity with Palestinians. So please take one of these or more, give them to your friends, we have tons, and spread the good word. And with that, I'm going to invite up Elena Ellis and Amber Flame of Generous Press, and we're going to get this party started right now.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, Amber's going to stand over there and look pretty, so let's start there. I'd like to introduce to you Deputy Publisher of Generous Press, co-founder of Generous Press, Amber Flame. I am, oh, we're coming closer. Yeah. Yep. But not blocking the, never blocking the. Okay, great. I am Elena Ellis. Hello, Internet. I am co-founder of Generous Press as well, and I am the publisher. Generous Press publishes lush, high-caliber romance fiction and other books about love, and our authors are brilliant queer, BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and disabled writers. And we love to tell a love story. And we are so honored and thrilled to be able to present these authors to you today. Before we do, I want to say we're very proud to be in this space. We feel politically and culturally and aesthetically aligned. These cats, I couldn't be happier to be standing amongst these cats. And so thank you. And when we live on the West Coast, but when I was a baby gay and, had only been out in various ways a few years. In my early 20s, I was in New York, stumbling around, and came to support group meetings at the center. And I was so shy. Like, I don't know if you remember the time when you were like shy to walk into spaces that were predominantly queer. I was like, can I be here? And my partner at the time was trans, and he would go to his own support group meetings, and we'd meet up afterwards. And we probably all pass around copies of My Gender Workbook by Kate Bornstein. So it all comes together, and how darling and important that there's a bookstore here now. Like, wow. Kate Bornstein is a trans icon. She didn't write those words, but everybody else did. You know, it has been written. Who's pioneering books about non-binary gender, including Gender Outlaw and My Gender Workbook, are taught in 6 languages all over the world, and many colleges have changed countless lives. Another book to pick up if you haven't is Hello Cruel World, 101 Alternatives to Suicide for Teens, Freaks, and Other Outlaws, very important book. That book propelled them into an international position of advocacy for marginalized youth, which, thank you. And yes. Mentor, friend, auntie to many. Caitlin Sullivan has written several plays, 2.5 novels. Is this one of the 2.5?
Yes.
Okay. And a comic book. She worked as a journalist, reporting and editing for the Seattle Gay News for many years. And importantly, you should know she lives in a small rural town near a loud donkey and quiet cows. And the program is going to be a brief reading of excerpts from the book. And I'll start by reading an introductory piece that will kind of frame it if you haven't picked up the book yet, to give you a little bit of context. And then I'll introduce another reader. And then you'll get a little reading, then we'll join each other in conversation, then we'll ask you if you have any questions. And then we'll all go have a nice evening. How nice is it to have a matinee? Okay, great. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Dear reader?
You did a great job standing there.
Thank you.
You may sit now. So I'll read your reader, and then I'll introduce your Drew. Does that sound good?
Sounds very good.
Great. Okay. So we like to, something we've been talking about is that the romance genre ideally takes care of its readers. Like that's a thing in genre fiction in general. It's sort of like if you kind of know what to expect, whether it's a happy ending, which is the romance deal, or it's whatever formula you're looking forward to in your cozy mystery or whatever it is, then you can kind of feel like there's something I can trust about my experience in this book before I even open it. And we care extra. I think we care extra. That's part of our mission at Generous Press, caring a little extra. So we really like to write a letter to the reader. Can I read it without glasses? I don't know. Read it with glasses. Dear reader. Dear reader, if you're of a certain age, you'll recall the sound and feel of 90s dial-up internet. Anyone have a good impression?
Oh,
Yeah. That's what it sounded like. The beeps, the buzzing, the wild sense of possibility. This was the World Wide Web, the information superhighway, a newfangled means of connection through chat rooms and electronic mail. It is the neon bright, erotically charged, and pixelated backdrop of this very special book. Kate Bornstein and Caitlin Sullivan have tapped back into that old buzz to create a new kind of magic entirely. When the first edition of Nearly Roadkill, Queer Love on the Run was written, original subtitle, An Infobon Erotic Adventure, and that came out 30 years ago. Homophobia was a cultural norm, and AIDS was killing people on a massive scale. Enter the internet, a place where desire could be joyfully explored, no holds barred. Caitlin recalls, how fun was it to use this technology for hot, wicked sex? After you dialed up on your giant tower computer. So fun. Sex was just one of the acts of queer resistance this new technology made possible. Back then, trans people didn't gather in public. Kate says, trans identity was completely about our bodies then. Most of us were too ashamed to go out in public, so there was no way to practice embodying the genders we wanted so badly to be. There was no way to meet and share information, to encourage or warn each other. The dawn of virtual reality made it possible for us to learn what words to say, how to flirt, and more importantly, how best to say no. Kate speaks lovingly of The Gazebo, a chat room on America Online founded in 1994 by trans elder and cyberspace superstar Gwendolyn Ann Smith. I love hearing some love for that. The Gazebo was open 24/7 and provided a safe space for trans folk from around the world to gather and talk. That was the beginning of the trans movement, says Kate. We grew up in cyberspace and spilled over into real life. There was a parallel blossoming for deaf people who had previously used TTY machines, if they were available, to communicate electronically. As an ally, Caitlin says, the deaf community's online revolution was a joy to behold. For so many marginalized people, the dawn of the internet marked an end to isolation. The authors used real chat room culture as inspiration for the 1995 edition of this book, but added their own speculative twist, asking, what if the internet was government surveilled? What if gender identity was policed and commodified for corporate gain? Ha ha cry. We laugh, we weep. Such imaginings are, of course, eerily prescient today. But Kate and Caitlin's more hopeful visions have borne fruit too. Since the 90s, trans and queer communities have iterated and blossomed online and off, not into utopian lockstep, but into a vital, creative, and ongoing conversation. A conversation that is crucial as LGBTQ rights and immigrant rights and racial justice rights, disability rights, reproductive rights are threatened and ripped away. A conversation not unlike the one begun by Nearly Roadkill's Lovebirds, who you'll hear from shortly, Scratch and Wink, back in 1995, and continued by D.I. Drew, who you'll also hear from shortly, reporting to us from 2025. So part of the big surprise gift of this book is that, yes, it's a new edition of a 1995 book, but it has a whole new character, a whole new plot, and a really quite a significant revision. So it's a combination of that archival original material and a new twist. While Nearly Roadkill isn't a time travel story, this 30th anniversary reboot does bend the laws of time and space, pulling that dusty Ethernet cord as far as it can go, reaching backward from that giant tower computer and forward through the decades to let you know you're plugged in, you're part of the big picture, you're worthy of love. By you, we mean you, dear reader. Queer or straight or cis or non-binary beauty, rebellious lover or lonely heart, enthusiastic or fed up surfer of Wi-Fi, that cat that's crying about social networking. Even you, sad cat, seeker of justice and joy in a time of great global sorrow. Just like those chat rooms Scratch and Wink can't stay away from, you have a place here if you want it, or whoever you are. Now buckle up, the information superhighway is a twisting road, and you're in for a ride. All right. That was for you guys. And now I will find what I'm looking for in my text messages. Yes. I'm happy to now introduce Erin Markey, who's going to read the role of Drew, who's a character in the book. Erin is a writer, actor, and maker of shows, often with original music. They were most recently in Ludlum's galas at Little Island, and they're currently writing a book. Thank you,
Well, there we are.
There you are.
So I'm going to set the scene.
Oh, great.
We begin with a young reporter who wants to kind of make their name and report this amazing thing. It's just so
If you hold it like Erin is holding it, instead of trying to leave it on the stand, it's less penile.
More like
Really?
Like a trophy. Like a trophy, yes.
No, I use my hands a lot, so how's this?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah,
All right. And this person is pitching this story to a press that is oddly named They Them Press. and wants to have them hear the story. So there's a lot of eagerness and a lot of youth and a lot of earnestness, and the D.I. Drew is like fashioning their self after, you know, the detectives in British miniseries, D.I. Drew. Right? Take it away.
To editor, They Them magazine, from D.I. Drew Sparrow. Subject: Nearly Roadkill, aka Queer Love on the Run, aka The Ballad of Scratch and Wink. Hi Asa, thank you so much for the go-ahead on this story. I'm excited. Since we originally talked last year, I've done some serious sleuthing. I found witnesses, developed reliable online sources, and made deep dives into archival material. I've been surprised and moved by what I've found. I think you will be too. The story unfolds over the months and weeks leading up to the infamous day the internet went silent in March of 1995. Of course, the shutdown on that infamous day has been covered. I don't know about you, but I've been hearing about it my whole life. My dad used to use it to lecture me about online safety. But no one has ever told the personal story of the two folks who first called for the worldwide internet strike. Nope. Scratch and Wink have been reduced to footnotes. Why? Who were they? Who were they to each other? Here's my elevator pitch. The story of Scratch and Wink is a love story, a queer love story, one of the great love stories of the age. The bad news is I haven't been able to find a trace of Scratch or Wink in the 21st century. Are they dead? Still running? No one knows. It's well documented that they ran from the law and initially escaped, but what happened after they limped off into the sunset? The good news is the amount of material I have found is staggering. Original logs, emails, reports, direct messages, and corporate memos. I scored a ton of internal archives, phone logs, and confidential reports from the Federal Bureau of Census and Statistics. It took me a full year to find and patch it all together into the right order, and now the players can tell their own story of queer love on the run. There's no way I can duplicate the experience of reading/living their words live on screen. This was back in the wild and woolly days of the internet frontier. No TikTok or Instagram. People actually talked with each other in chat rooms. Live chat, direct messaging, you name it. I've formatted the manuscript to mimic as much as possible how it was coming down in real time. The entire collection of archival material is book length, but I've broken it into chapters with the idea of them publishing it as a monthly serial. Can't wait to hear what you think. All the best. Drew Sparrow, aka D.I. Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Wink, that's their name, is brand new to the online world, the world of chat rooms and private messages, where you can take on any idea you want, and other people will treat you like that's who you and what you are most of the time. This is their first entry into a journal that's later found by Drew, who mines it for clues as to who Wink might really be.
Wink journal entry. The bottom line here seems to be sex. Yay! So that's where I started. Last night in a chat room, I used a couple of different names, right? I went into one room called The Flirt's Nook. And this guy says, want to go private? And I said, sure. No idea what it meant. So he gives me the name of this room. So I go there and he starts taking off his clothes. I mean, online he does. He does that double colon thing. I'm stripping off my shirt, that sort of thing. It's amazing. So, blush. We have sex right there. He asks me what I look like, what I'm wearing, and it's kind of like the phone sex work I do, only better because there's even more to the imagination. So, he has his way with me, and then he just signs off. Poof! He's gone. Guess he came, huh? That's what guys do on the phone line. They come, they hang up. At that point, I figured in for a penny, in for a pound. So I signed off, then signed back on. Is get this, a major macho dude. And I had more sex with some women this time. And then I signed off and signed back on as a drag queen. And I had all this sex with straight boys and gay boys and straight girls. I gotta say, drag queen turns out to be a mighty popular identity. All of this is like when I'm working my phone line, being someone else for some guy only. Online, it's really me. A different aspect of me, for me, not for some guy who's paying me to be his fantasy. I want to learn to do that in the real world. That'd be my dream come true. End wink entry. All right, so later on in the book, Wink does meet Scratch, and they keep meeting over and over and over again, and they're always in these different identities and genders and ages and species, you name it. They don't know it's always the same person they're meeting. But they keep having great sex with each other, and they keep falling in love in all those identities. They finally do meet, and they agree never to tell each other online, and they agree never to tell each other who and what they really are in real life. And they just keep falling in love. It's much later in the book they meet up in real life, and they have a falling out because people in love are always going to do that. So they're not speaking to each other. So Scratch writes an email to their younger mutual friend, Tube, sometimes narrator of the book.
To Tube, from Scratch, subject, dummy. Tube, my man, I'm an idiot. I asked for something, I got what I asked for, and now I'm running away from it. Not to whine, but it ain't a great time in the world to be unusual. And as you have seen for yourself, I'm anything but usual. I'm not one of the cool kids. I wear big shoes. I sleep with whoever I want, who turns me on, but mostly only online. I'm in love with somebody I can't figure out. What a dream come true, huh? What did I do with that? Took a great big breath and ran the fuck away. Easier to be a freak all alone. At least you're carrying your own suitcases. When you've got someone else with you, it's less lonely. But your feelers extend to them now. You get protective and controlling and anxious and worried. I'm back in my stupid apartment just like I wanted. There's dust all over everything. Real-time sunlight streams in, illuminating all that is dingy. Instead of a happy spring feeling, it merely points up the pitfalls of the real. I miss here. I just miss Wink. I wouldn't have even noticed this crummy apartment last week. I would have jumped online and talked to my Wink. Am I nothing without interacting with another, me, who loves to be alone more than anything? Now that I'm there, I truly don't know who I am. I am Scratch to the mailman, Scratch to the woman I buy cigarettes from, and Scratch to Wink, to you. And without them, I am Scratch to myself. Whoever the hell Z is, stubborn, boring, unwilling to stretch, unable to make connections fire in my brain, unable to even pee without commenting on it. Big talker, all right. Me, scared of this person, smoky eyes and a laugh like music even when it was shaky with fear. Me, not willing to walk down the street with someone whose gender slips like a failing clutch. Me, the one who makes the bad guys uncomfortable and the ladies curious. Me, what exactly do I have to protect? Scratch. Mike. So, when they meet, we're sort of reading it out of sequence, but of course they have this falling out, and Wink is just as confused and distraught as Scratch is. So Wink writes in a private journal.
Wink on a bike. I rode my bike past a group of old men today, smiled and waved to them, long legs pedaling. Ah, they loved it. I could see in their faces how much they loved my smile, my long legs. They smiled and waved back. Maybe right now they're thinking about me. Maybe they're lying in bed next to their wives and they're thinking about my smile, floating past them like a butterfly they'll never catch. Some of them saw the girl of their dreams. Some of them saw a young boy. They never see me when I sign off and sit there naked with a bug floating in my teacup. And I wonder, how do some people just get off their bikes and laugh with a stranger who seems nice? How do they move their heads just so? How do they know when to smile? Is there some secret code I've never been taught? Is it in the genes? What's wrong with my genes then? How do they drink their tea? Without bugs, that's for sure. Scratch, what if I'm not the right one on the bike this time? What if you need me when I'm that long-haired Wink with the urgent cock and you're that nasty riot girl? What if you need that boy because you're a sweet young boy too? What if I could be whatever what if I could be whatever and you could be whatever and we just loved each other? Okay, things keep heating up. In a good way and in a scary way, Scratch and Wink have found themselves at the center of cyber anti-government activism. The internet police are on to them and they are closing in. Do they care? No, they're having a fight. Wink asks for some space, Scratch gives it, and time passes and passes and passes way too long, so Scratch writes an email to Wink.
To Wink, from Scratch, subject us, midnight. I'm a bear of little brain. I can't remember what our particular isms or differences are, and I don't care. I'm furious at the internet police. I miss you fierce. I feel such love for you, my friend, my lover, my fellow traveler. Your vulnerability is overwhelming sometimes until I realize it's my own. There's no support for outlaws, even among ourselves. Your path is so lone, as is mine, and we cannot help each other any more than we do with comforting words. Nevertheless, we still return to relating to the realizations, albeit alone. As more people get online, I'm sad that when I try to connect to people as someone without a gender or without a specific sexual preference, just me, gender-free, and loving whoever comes along, I get blank faces, tinged with fear and judgment. It's all the same thing, the connectedness of spirit, the capacity we're born with, and either spend our lives denying or searching out to the farthest corners. I want that connection, to see and be seen with someone. The point is, Wink, you do see. That's worth everything to me. More than any of my ignorance or fear of change. I miss you. Have you had enough space now? Can we meet, please? Thanks for listening, my love. Good night, Scratch.
That's a love story.
Amber and I have read this book and iterations of this book so many times, and we were just holding hands and being like, oh, it's so sweet. Being surprised by it all over again. It's so sweet.
Yeah, we're gonna have to share a mic. We're gonna have to share a penis, I'm sorry.
I was just going
You
to
two are
say
that kind of close. You're that kind of
backup
friends.
group,
I don't know.
you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have a little have a little chat, and be thinking about if you have questions for these two. But, oh, Amber, you had a question you wanted to start with. First of all, it's so beautiful to hear this work in your voices.
Oh my God, exactly that. Exactly that. I found myself falling in love with these characters. I was like, I can't wait to read this book. I can't wait to read this story. And then I was like, I can't wait to read this story again with your voices in my head now as these characters, because oh my gosh, we've been in this book for like
bit.
years, it feels like now.
Years.
Oh well, years, and that's where I want to begin actually.
Okay.
Collaborating on a book, co-writing a book is something I kind of can't fathom. We talk about another one that I love is How to Lose a Time War, another collaborative book, and so I want to take you back to structure a little bit. How then? I mean, it took place a lot in the chat rooms. You've talked about that. We have this great chat between the four of us. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out, where we go a little bit into the history of what was happening then. But literally, how physically did you write together back then, and then how did you collaborate this time to make this book come together?
To make it a novel.
To make it a novel, yeah. When did you know? At what point were you sexting in chat rooms and then you're like, wait a minute, we have a story here? Or did you start making a story in the chat rooms and then take it offline? What happened? How'd that go?
Yes. We really did. Kate was way ahead of me. I was writing snail mail to her, and she kept saying, there's this thing called email. And so we started doing that, and then I ventured into chat rooms, and I would start flirting with somebody, and it turned out to be Kate. And then I'd be in a chat room with somebody, and then I'd get a private message or instant message, they called it, and it would be Kate. But I didn't know that. And I was a gay man, she was a gay man, young, old, riot girl, skateboarder, everything. And so we thought that was pretty funny. And then what we learned is that back then, and it's so hard now, but you could hit one button and log the entire chat. Like it was just this file. So then we were like, we should make a book. And then we sat down at a restaurant with butcher block paper that was the tablecloth. We started sketching, and then we said, we need a plot.
And then we couldn't figure out a plot, so we figured out, all right, we'll start with all these chats we've got. And we started tying them together. We said, who would be doing, let's have it in, we were just starting to get mail that, notices that had something to do with a message we sent. If we'd start talking about, my sneakers are worn out, we'd get an ad for sneakers. That was a brand new thing. And so we said, let's take this to the limit and have corporations all over it and in league with the government. And we would do things like, then we had an outline, and we took turns writing chapters. And we'd write a chapter, and we'd upload it, and it would take a good hour and a half to upload. And wait, and wait, and wait for it to come back. And it was like that. And the first book, we needed to explain to people what a modem was. We needed to explain what a chat room was. And we got to take all of that out of this version. And now you just got the good parts.
We also had to explain gender play, gender fluidity, we were making up words, which was Z and here, HIR, which we thought, that's all we need to do is make up those words and then everything will be clear. So we got to take that out too. So it was, because it was really ponderous, to have to go through explaining all that. And then physically, Kate was in San Francisco and I was in Seattle, so at least we're on the same coast. And it's funny because the reboot, we're both on the East Coast. She's in New York and I'm in West Virginia.
Now you
So
get
it's-
the fresh hell of editing PDFs together.
Yeah.
That's our current.
Well, and she's always been a Mac person, I've always been a PC person.
Oh, lovely.
So that was always hard.
Oh, no.
And then I'm going to prompt you to go into, so yeah, as you worked on the reboot, and as we asked you to think of this fully as a romance novel, because the original, it wasn't not a romance novel. It didn't not end happily. If anyone's read the original edition of this book, but there was more ambiguity than there is now about the
It was in the
ending.
thriller on the info box.
We all got together and I was like, I want to know that these two are nested lesbians together far in the future, basically. Like that is my personal, you do not have to write that, but that is my personal desire. How many cats do they have? So tell them about the process of pushing the romance and what that was like for you.
It was great because we got to focus on the love part. We had the sex down really good, but we didn't do as much of the falling in love as we did, and there are a series of epilogues because you wanted a happy ending.
You deserve a happy ending.
So we all got our wishes. There's a very unhappy ending. It lasts a while. Did I just spoil it?
No.
Okay, good.
Paying attention to what you just said. But I was also thinking how, I don't think we told you this, but we were coming up with the ending and we were like, Elena's not gonna like it. Oh, we forgot the cat.
We forgot the cat.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
amazing.
you.
I love it. So, back to me. Back to me. The pushing. What was really amazing about hearing it fresh and from new perspective and live and in real life and being here in the space with you was how sweet and tender these passages and the longing. There was so much longing, and it didn't feel virtual. It didn't have that sense of like we're talking about virtual spaces now and how after quarantine, after COVID, all that stuff, like there's a fatigue. We're like, do we do virtual again? Do we not? Do we are we going back to that? Are we not? And that doesn't have that thread in there at all. There was just it was a refuge, and you talk about that a lot. That was a space where we were safe as a people. We were safer there. And it's already been mentioned, but there was this future looking. You said that was the first time where you would say, oh, my sneakers are starting to be worn out, and then you'd get an ad kind of thing. But, gender play, all these things that you were getting to experience with safely there, you were starting to look at what if they targeted us for this? What if they started to look at that? And that's what the story does back then. And now we're all chuckling when you talked about it because we're like, oh, it's not fiction anymore, but it was fiction then. When was the moment where you were like, that's the plot. And did you see it coming? Did you see it coming because you're genius, brilliant prophets of the future? Are you psychic? And what else do you see coming? Too much pressure. Back to the story. But in the 90s, did you have that moment where you're like, I bet they're coming in this way, and that would be a story to tell, or no?
That's the second book, what's coming. Go ahead. Oh, okay. We definitely saw it coming, and I think the other thing about our generation is we saw the rise of the critique of advertising within our lifetime. Like, even as children, I remember the Volkswagen ad was the first one that used lots of white space. It was just a big deal, that it was a very different kind of advertising. And so there was a critique of why does everything have to be advertised? And there was awareness of, what was it called? Something like a secret propaganda that would come through in the ads.
Subliminal messaging.
Yes, thank you.
And they started doing a lot of subliminal messaging, like, oh, lose weight through subliminal messaging. Oh, professional coaching through.
Drink Coke during a movie. Yeah, it would flash so fast that you read it, but it would register.
So when they have intermission, you go buy your Coca-Cola.
Exactly. So I think that's how we extrapolate it. And I always have to say at this point that I do think we kind of thought that through, but the thing that we didn't anticipate was that we would be giving this information voluntarily. We thought the government would take it, or the advertisers would take it. And now we're like, oh, Social Security here, have my number.
I was born in March because I'm an Aries.
Yeah, the story revolves on what we came up with, the process of registration. Everybody in the country had to register, and there's a series like 121 questions about yourself that you had to answer so that the advertising companies could glom onto you and target you. And then Scratch and Wink refused. They fuck that. Or they answered it in 19 different ways on purpose, and that got them in trouble. And we came up with an old grizzly detective, old school detective, and he was new to the internet himself. And he wasn't quite chomping on a cigar, but he could have been.
I've shared this before, but I sent away, once we had started to talk about doing this project, I sent away to get a fresh old copy of the original book, which had been out of print, and so you can still find them, but they're rare. So I sent away for a copy of the book. The day it came to me in the mail was one of the days that Elon Musk had proclaimed that the word cisgender was banned from Twitter, X, whatever the fuck. And the chilling, as I read this book, the chilling lines between then and now, this tech, executive billionaire, I didn't even know how close he would come to our federal government, which also plays a role in your book. And then the policing of language around gender and non-binary gender and transgender was wow, hello. That's what I meant by this isn't a time travel book, but it's traveling through time somehow. We're having conversations with ourselves through that span, and I'm so grateful.
And at some point, the love story moves to in IRL in the book. And what I love is right now there was Janie Nicholas, the astrologer, posted a little TikTok, I think Lizzo was like, I got a flip phone, I'm unshackling myself, and I was like, you're posting on Instagram, unshackling myself. But even the TikTok was like, okay, so you know how like AI right now, like you can tell it's AI because it's like a little fuzzy on the edges and something's a little funny about it, but pretty soon it's gonna be so good that we can't tell it's AI, and then we're not gonna know, but maybe that will mean that we'll like get off of these things because we won't know what's real and what's not, and we're so tired of it that we'll put it down and we'll like go over and knock on a door and talk to somebody in real life. And then it did the bloop thing of TikTok, and I was like, I think it moves. I think our love story now and our love story then, our love story has to move to in real life, and it has to move to micro communities. See how I segued that?
I got this.
Thank you. That's why I'm here, y'all. You thought it was just to look pretty? No, actually, I segue to your questions. What other questions do you have? Maybe for, right? See, I do serve a purpose here, yes. But I'm really thinking about that. I'm thinking about how we bring people together and when we bring people together and what's worth the risk, right? Like when do we learned who you're willing to risk yourself for on a really practical, real level, and now we gather again on purpose in places where we're like, where do we find safety, right? This is a place where we're like, we need it because it's a place where we can be safe together for a moment and celebrate. And I'm so grateful. And when they meet in real life, that moment and the falling out, and they're like literally on the run. They're like, wait.
But we have to stop in a motel really quick.
Right, and
That's how we're done.
right, and talk.
Process.
And so, well, first.
Okay, so let's hear from you all if you have questions for Kate or Caitlin, or we're happy to talk about the process of the book as well.
So you both have written independently. How did you go about combining
I didn't. Caitlin maintained your style, I maintained my style. We each took, there are a bunch of characters in the book, and we each took one and played with them and marveled at the other. Going, oh yeah, that works, and I could write something that dovetails in here like this. And so I just admired your style of character and your way with dialogue, and it was really good to ease on in with that.
Great question.
I also think that, well, Kate is a playwright, and I wrote plays a lot for a long time.
I am also a playwright
Okay.
because I write plays.
Good, okay.
Oh, that wasn't Amber claiming the identity of playwright. That was saying
You are also a playwright.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, you too? Caitlin and Kate are both playwrights. Continue. There we go.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So, I don't know if you know, like with medical shows, the writers will do, you know, blah, blah, you know, soap opera, and then they'll go medical, medical, medical. And then a medical person will come in and help them understand what that is. I think that's what we did. So we would send a thing and saying, you know, this is something for Scratch to write, and here you go. And then, but the other thing that's kind of extraordinary, and I don't know if it happened as much the first time around, is when we were revising, we were writing new material, but we were revising, we would get on a Zoom call, I swear to God, finish each other's sentences. I mean, Kate would be typing and I'd be like, what if she does, you know, what if this happens and then this guy comes around the corner? And she's like, no, and she types it and I'm looking at what she's typed. I mean, it was extraordinary. And we did it right before we came here. We had to revise something, I can't remember, some reading. And I was like, we need to introduce this, that, and the other. And she goes, oh, how about this? Perfect. So I think that's just a mind meld. We won't go into this Star Trek thing, but thing that has happened over the years, maybe. I think so.
Other questions?
These are for you.
Sort of like a nostalgic chat room question. The version of like online dating right now is so dire and so unattractive to most, I would say. And I'm wondering if that like fatigue was happening in the chat rooms, or was it just a different social community?
Ooh,
Yeah.
great question.
It was brand new. You could be anything, okay? And you could describe yourself in any way you wanted. And I remember that there was this one bar that I used to go into, and I was the lady in red. And in that bar was James Bond. And he and I would flirt and flirt and flirt just outrageously. James Bond was a perfect gentleman. And it wasn't until about 10 or 15 years later, I found out it was a 15-year-old Bear Bergman.
Whoops.
So, age was something else. Had I known that it was a 15-year-old, backed off. But that was another thing. If you were 15 and you were a sexual genius, and there are those, you could play, you could find out, and you wouldn't get hurt.
Yes.
You could say no and fuck you and slam a door in someone's face. You know, that worked.
Yeah, and it should be, for the younger folks, there were actual monitors of the room. So if somebody was an asshole, that monitor would say, you're out. Safe, so safe. I mean, just sometimes what we wanted to say is, I'm queer. Like that was the safest place to be able to say something we'd never said, right? And if there was any harassing, I mean, that was the other thing. I don't think we ever expected there to be the trolling there is now.
No.
It never occurred, and we also didn't think about underage kids because we didn't know that you could troll a kid and meet them in real life and exploit them, right? That it was all online, and there were monitors. So And I think you had to be a certain age, you had to buy a floppy disk of Marathon Online to become a member. You had to pay for that. So that also was kind of a gatekeeping.
Although, I'm 44, and I for sure was logging into AOL and being like, blah, 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 there was definitely, you could wander into
Right.
some unfortunate
Right.
situations for sure. But, sorry, I'll talk into the mic. But what's been really interesting in our conversations is just that it's not like this, where there's so many binaries we like to believe in, and there's this idea that like either then was bad and now is good, or then was good and now is bad, and that actually it's this like totally complex, there were complexities about meeting on the internet then, and the limits of where we could meet and where we could be safe then, and there are certainly complexities we're living with now, and the fruit of talking that through has been pretty great.
I'm curious about your publishing project and about you were saying coming together in a safe space, IRL or whatever, and you saying you want to have these happy endings. I'm wondering how you guys think about kind of queer joy and queer happiness and a place of respite also in reading in these challenging times. How you see your project kind of as a political project or aesthetic project, or just something about you guys putting this together and then you guys helping giving it life?
Why don't you summarize the question?
You said it really beautifully, but what I heard in that question was to talk more about our publishing project, Generous Press, and this question of romance having a happy ending. And that is, for anyone who isn't a romance reader or scholar, that genre, that is one of the rules. The two rules are you center a romantic relationship and that there's a happy ending for that centered romantic relationship. So playing in that space, yes. So what I was hearing the question is there political mission to that? Is there special meaning in working on that right now? Queer joy, working with these queer joys. Yeah.
I was smiling so big because we actually just got to have a conversation with somebody who's writing about like what small presses are doing in this time.
Watch for us in Publishers Weekly.
Watch for us. We might have 2 lines or something. A very rich conversation that we had. But we got to get into this very discussion, and for me, especially, this feels like part of my activism to hold and create more spaces for these kind of love stories, for us to be able to see ourselves in them, for them to be written by us, for us, and that is. I'm gonna make myself cry. But really, this feels revolutionary. I know how few there were when I was coming up. Even I know how few there were when you all were coming up. Like brown paper packages kind of thing, right? To even have a love story. I remember buying Stone Witch Blues and how sad all of our stories always were. So to instead write a bunch of romance or a bunch of love stories, to put more and more love stories that guarantee a happy ending, guarantee some comfort, guarantee that you get to imagine, at least for now, that we get to have love and have a happy romance is phenomenal. And I am so like behind, like we're gonna put out as many as we can, like as diverse a group of people as we can. We want to imagine it all. We want all the bodies. We want all the ages. We want all the colors. We want all the hair textures. We want all the descriptions of sex and all the like hints at and the open doors and the closed doors and everything, So I'm so excited about that space because there is a growing need and desire for it as well. And so it feels like not only are we aligned, but then we get to sit in this joy, and that means, like I said, I fell in love with this book again, just hearing them read it, and we've spent so many hours on this book. I know this book, but it felt fresh and new, and I'm like excited for it to be on my shelf again, right? Like as a reader. So how exciting is it to like look around and be like, more, and have them be more and more happy stories as well, because we have plenty of sad stories, and we will apparently continue to have plenty of sad stories.
There's plenty of sadness in the book.
also that. We actually
Thank you. That was related to something I wanted to add to what you just so beautifully spoke to. it's so funny when we talk about the serious parts of the book. You're
Oh,
like, there's
sure,
also
sure,
sex and
sure.
humor, so there's all the things.
There's also sex and humor. That's the revolution.
But that is, when you invite people from historically marginalized identities to write in this genre that requires a happy ending, you're inviting people who know very well, like we are not subscribed to the fantasy version of happy ending. That's like,
Yeah.
if I just blink my eyes right, I don't know, I have a lot of privilege impression. I don't know. If I just blink my eyes right, then the whole thing will feel good, and everyone will be fine, and I'll be fine. Like
And my mother will love me.
so we're not doing that. I'm sorry if that creeped you out. But we're not subscribing to that, and we're working with authors who write through the rest of it, like write through our bodies and our realities. And there's something so hot and so beautiful and so healing about that. I feel that as a reader, and I feel so proud to do that as a publisher. And I will say we have, this is our third book. The first book we did was an anthology of short stories, from very short, like poets in the book writing one-page flash fiction to longer stories that are all romance, but they really will give you kind of a sampler of the kinds of voices we're wanting to bring into this space. And yes.
I want to add one thing really quick, is that we also have this as an audiobook on Spotify. So I know there's a lot of folks that they like to read, but they would rather listen. So for you out home, just look for it on Spotify.
On streams.
Or Audible, or I don't know if it's up on Libby yet, but it's distributed very broadly. It's produced by Spotify. Yeah.
When?
Now.
Now.
Right now.
Your voices?
No.
With actors who are wonderful.
With actors like your voices.
I have to tell you, this is Spotify has moved into audiobooks, and they, the team that does the audiobooks, this is just a fun FYI, the team that does the audiobooks was a small company before they got bought by Spotify, and they are mostly queer, and they take exquisite care with casting our books. Like, will not cast a person who doesn't originally speak the language of a character, or who doesn't have some sort of similarity in lived experience with a gender. They make mistakes. There's a mispronunciation of he, here, but
HIR.
yeah. But I just, it's a delight to have audiobooks coming out that have representation in them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jenny.
I was lucky to get to read an early galley version, and so I know that this is also, we've kind of alluded to this, but it's a sexy book, and I think it's in part because how playful your voices are, and dialogue, and just how imaginative, I think, because of maybe the role play stuff that's going on, and it's kinky, and so I just wondered if, I know that was just a big compliment, but I wondered if you wanted to speak at all to how did you edit those parts? Because they also tell a story, they kind of build an arc of sexy intimacy, but how did you think through that part of the book?
This is where working with Elena and Amber was amazing. Writing is a very solo thing for me. So teaming up with Caitlin was something new. And then teaming up with you two was something bigger. And you felt safer to do a cut. It was much safer to cut something. It was much safer to tie two bits of it together and create an arc that I didn't see, but they saw. So I think that came about. Anybody working on a romance novel, please, you'll be happy to work with these two.
I want to echo that. They were so respectful, and they spent a lot of time asking questions and not just dictating. And I'm thinking about the one pain point in the book, which is Scratch and Wink are incredibly earnest and very curious and full of love when they ask each other questions. But I just read a review, I have to say, of the book that said this was the most honest conversation conversation about gender between two lovers, really, that I've ever seen, because we're kind of backing away from those conversations because they're scary and they can be offensive. And some of the questions that they ask each other offend the other person. And I think now with the tech, people are going right to their corners and saying, you used the wrong word, we're done. You're an asshole, I'm gonna flame you forever. God, do they still use flame as a word? So I think that I feel very proud of that, because we were literally trying to find out who the hell are you and what does it mean and what's sexuality and what's gender. I mean, all of that we were unpacking then. And I think that helps contribute to the arc, because in the beginning they're pretty clueless, they're just having sex, and then they fall in love, so they're trying to understand where each other is coming from. And I've had 20-year-olds, read that conversation and say, it still holds up, it's not offensive, it's just curious, loving questions.
Yeah, we weren't even that scared of writing that deeply, because that's what you did. There was no political correctness tied to language as much as there is today.
This book could get so,
Oops, sorry.
This book could get so very quickly and deeply banned by the right wing, but also could get canceled by all kinds of people.
Let's get it banned. And then
I think we should close so that folks have time to say hi to the writers and get books signed. But
I'll make one comment. I know you from years ago. I'm Larry Myers, David Lamble's friend, and they wanted me to run for mayor. I mean, I know this is humorous. I had to slide this in. I was Tennessee Williams' lover, and my book is The Life Expectancy of Flowers, and it's being made in Jumagi. Anyway, but I bought all of your books. I want you to sign all of them. I had to slide that in.
Thank you.
Darling, we're self-involved and self-promoting. I'm going to be 80 years old. I have to, I don't want to be the Grandma Moses of gay playwrights.
You will, right?
You're all gorgeous, especially you. You're my type, girl. Inside of every white gay man is a
So, to close, I want to ask, we've talked in our many conversations, my son is 16-year-old trans black boy, and you've seen him go back and forth behind the Zooms in our many conversations. But we talk about how the hope is that there's a future of this. There's what the message is for the future a little bit. And you've done all the work and now you get to wander. And we 100% co-sign your wandering, Kate. What do you hope this is for the next 30 years as people find this love story of Wink and Scratch? When they find it in 30 years from now, what do you hope that they maybe see in themselves or see in those characters? Is there a hope for the youth? Is there a message that you want? If they were listening and they find your archive, what do Wink and Scratch have to say for the youth today? No pressure.
There's a lot of sex in the book, and it's really graphic, and really there's a lot of wet and hard and smelly, and I hope that future readers go, oh cool, that it doesn't put people off, that it's not a, No one needs a trigger warning.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're-
Yeah.
I had something and now it's going. I think that one of the things that happened, I was on a panel about queerness, and then the next day I had a reading about this book, and I went to bed going, I'm tired of queer stuff, this is too much. And then I realized, talking about this and writing about this and having presses and being active is just a lens through ways of being. It's just how we discuss ways of being, animals and people, right? This is just ours. I mean, we continue to talk about gender still, but it's not really. It's about, we go to Buddhism and nonviolence and all this. And I think that that's also what a lot of folks miss, not only straight folks, but maybe young folks thinking, it's all about trying to form your identity, which is partly what you do when you're young, but it's also a way of being in the world. And something I always want to say is that identity is really important, but what's really good is to help people. That really makes you grow as a person, or animals if you're tired of people. Because that gets you out of yourself, and even if I'm feeling shitty when it's time to go take care of cats, I was gonna do a cat joke, but I won't. I end up always feeling better, after, and that's way better than staying home and being in my head.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful to end on that.
Well, let's give these joys a round of applause. And there'll be a signing table here behind me. Please follow along with Generous Press. We're on Instagram and a little bit on TikTok. We have a website. You can also come talk to our faces right now. I love that. Yeah, it's a joy to be with you. Thank you. And thank you too so much for hosting us.
So books are for sale at the back, and the signing will take place up here. So thanks, folks, and thank you online.